Welcome everybody from Sparx Systems YouTube page. It's great to have everyone aboard with us today. Once again, looking at our urban parking system. My name's Scott. I'm joined by Stephen, and we're going to continue looking at our strategic models. So welcome, Stephen. How are you today?
Very well, thank you, Scott. Glad to be here.
For some time, a few years ago, I was doing some MBA classes where we're looking at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and doing it all on paper. But I understand that you can do some SWOT analysis in Enterprise Architect. Is that correct?
That's very true, Scott. In fact, there's very little that you can't do in Enterprise Architect. There's always a way to represent things in a model. So let's make a start into this topic of SWOT analysis. So the SWOT analysis is a planning tool that allows you to identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, not only involved in an organization, a project, but also an endeavor or a part of a system. So as always, let's start looking at our perspective and setting our perspective, which, remember, sets the focus of the tool. Up in the top right-hand corner of the application, we can see that we have a drop-down here, allows us to choose perspective. I've been doing some XML schema modeling earlier today, and I had that perspective set. Now focusing on strategic modeling. So I'll choose the strategy perspective set, and I'll choose all strategy from this one. So now EA changes its focus, as always, to the selected perspective. We want to do things from first principles. So even though we have some patterns that allow us to create a SWOT analysis, I'm going to leave those alone, and we're going to do things from first principles. So I'll close that builder page for a moment, and let's go in and look at our strategic models. We have a package in the project browser here for them. And if we look on the navigation page, which is the first or home page of the system, we'll see that there's a strategic models button there. And if we click on this, we get a preview of what those strategic models are. And we've done value chains, we've done mind maps and flow charts and organization charts and balance scorecard, decision trees. So we're going to add to that set today with the SWOT analysis. So let's make a start. So I need to put a package in here for the SWOT analysis. So let's do that now, and we'll create a new package, and we'll call it SWOT analysis. And let's just use that topic there. So it's the SWOT analysis for the urban parking meter system. So let's make a start. The focus that we want to be on now is the current and future potential. So that's what we're looking at with our SWOT analysis. And let's just create that package. And we're going to create a diagram now. Let's put the package into the browser, and we're going to create a diagram now for the SWOT analysis. We're going to use a general diagram here now, a UML diagram. So a class diagram, which is a universally applicable diagram. We'll choose structural models there, and we'll choose class. And let's put this diagram as current state and future potential. So we'll leave that there. We know it's our parking system, so let's just put that one in there and create the diagram. Great, so we have a start. And the first thing I like to do, Scott, when I'm doing these kind of work, is that I like to put in a title for the diagram. And many people don't know that very conveniently in the common elements page of the toolbox, there is a text element, and I can just put that in there. And let's put the current and future state, the future potential, and we'll call this SWOT analysis, current and future state potential. So with that title there, it's there. We can change.
Is it possible to make it bigger and change the color and font? And
yeah, absolutely. So I'll just show you that again. I'm just going to select off the layout ribbon, the style panel, and this item here with the textual A allows me to configure all that. I'm going to leave it as Calibri as the font. I'm going to make it bold. I'll make it 14, and I can change the color as well. So let's go for this teal color. And we've got
If
that.
you wanted to use the same heading on lots and lots of diagrams, is there any way that you can capture all of those style choices and save them for future?
Yeah, there is, Scott. We've covered that in a previous video, but there's a style selector here. So we've got, default styles, and we can create our own styles for particular elements, and we can just reuse those. So great question. And we can just set the text alignment on this thing as well. So we'll text align center, and let's leave that there. And we'll make it the behavior as being not selectable, so that when someone comes in, they aren't able to select that. So let's put in our first element. And so this is an important element, which is sort of setting the objective of the SWOT analysis. And we'll put that in as current state and future potential. Now, Scott, this is a business diagram, and Enterprise Architecture has a great facility to be able to change the appearance of elements across the entire diagram. So effectively choosing a different style for the diagram. If I click in the diagram canvas, anywhere in blank space in the canvas, and I look into the properties of the diagram, this is now the properties of the diagram, I can see that there are a number of different appearances. I've got hand-drawn, whiteboard. Custom style is the one that I want to select because it gives me a lot more flexibility in the way that I present the elements. And I can do that at a diagrammatic level, or I can do it at a element level. So now the elements slightly changed there. Let's do a couple of things here. Let's make it into a rounded rectangle. So this is what you get, the opportunity you get with this custom style. Make it into rounded rectangle, and let's go and change. Let's change the background color. So we could do that from one of these icons here. Change the background color. Let's make it into a mauve there, and let's set the font as well. So we could do that from here as well. And let's set it to be, let's set it to be purple color there, and make it into 10. So that's the setting. This is setting the stage, I guess, for our SWOT analysis. Now, we all know what we've had some business acumen. We know what the parts of a SWOT analysis are: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So let's put a class onto the canvas here, and let's call it strengths. So we've got our strengths, and we want to populate this with a number of elements. So again, we've got the opportunity to move the position of that text, and let's move it to top center. So I could put it in all sorts of different places: top left, top center, right, bottom. And I can also make it custom and move it to any position I want. But top center will be good for me at the moment. Let's put that in, and let's make this box a little bit bigger. We can do that just by holding the control key and using the arrows, or just drag this bottom corner here a little bit. So we've got our strength. We might want to put a number of strengths into that box. So let's make it a little bit bigger. And let's now create the boxes for the weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But let's set this as a rounded rectangle as well. And now I'm going to do something tricky here, Scott. I'm going to use the Control and Copy key on my keyboard. So I'm having Control C on that, and then Control Shift V, which allows me to create a copy of that element. So I'm going to call this weaknesses, and we'll paste that in, and it goes in.
Is that approach create another element in the browser?
Yeah, that's exactly right. If you look over into the browser, and I use the Find in Browser button of the toolbar there, you can see that weaknesses has been created in the browser. So important point, Scott, a lot of people don't realize this, that Enterprise Architect is not only a drawing tool, but it's a repository that's containing elements and relationships, and that all the time that when you're creating diagrams or changing diagrams, that's affecting this deep repository where things are being connected together. In fact, the elements in the repository are stored in a relational database, and that can be queried. So lots and lots of power. So while it presents itself as a drawing tool, it has this other very, very deep semantics about it, where the model is being created. So let's go and create some more of these. I can hit Control Shift V again, and of course we want to look at our opportunities as well. And we'll do that, and we'll create another one, which is our threats. So with that done, let's put our threats down here, our opportunities here. We can use the layout guidelines there that are helping us, find where these things are aligning to. Now, let's put some things into our strengths. So, what are some of the strengths of the urban parking meter system? Well, what we're going to do is we're just going to drop some classes to represent those. We could just write text into this box, but as always, Scott, what we're interested in doing is creating a model, not just a textual description, but an actual model. Yeah. So we'll put that in, and we'll put in revenue generation as one of our strengths. I'm going to reshape this box a little bit so I can fit other things in here. And we've got revenue generation there. And again, as always, Scott, from other videos that we've done, that I like to put in the notes as we are working. A lot of people, rush to put in all the elements, and that's a way of working as well. But I encourage you to come back if that's what you've done, and put notes in that explain what the particular strength in this case is about. So again, I can do a control copy on that, control shift V on that, and put another thing in here, which is going to be space optimization. So we've got a few strengths with our urban parking system. Can line those guys up again, and again, I'm going to choose the notes for that one there. The notes have been copied from the previous one, so we'll just delete those and put these new ones in. So that's what we're doing. We're building up this model, and again, we could go to weaknesses here and say, well, what are some of our weaknesses? And I can just either copy that one or drag a class from the browser and there, put that in, and high implementation costs is one of the weaknesses that we've got. And let's put in some notes for that one as well. Come back over to this model, and let's put those in there. So what we can do is just keep building up this model with these, the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities. The important thing here, Scott, is that these things are going in as classes. And if we look into the project browser now, you see that Enterprise Architect has very cleverly placed those underneath the strength. So we didn't have to do any work with that. We put them into the diagram under strengths, and the Enterprise Architect has located them underneath that node in the browser.
That relationship has been established within Enterprise Architect.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's right. So let's just have a look at one thing we'll do is let's have a look how we change, the style or the appearance of this element. So it looks a little bit bland at the moment, but let's put our strengths and let's make that a green color. So we'll choose that element, and we'll choose that green there, or another slightly softer one. And let's change the, the chroma of that, or the intensity of that, and let's make it into that color there. So that's kind of nice. We can now then also change the line, and so let's make that into a green border on that, strong green border there, and we can increase the thickness of that border if we want to apply the strengths there. We can change the font strength there as well. So if we went into our font again and went, okay, let's change that. Let's make that 10, maybe make it bold there. And you can see that we're able to do that. And let's change the color of the font and make it into a green color there. So, a number of different things that we can do. We can change these ones here and make them rounded rectangles as well. So we're on our way to complete this SWOT analysis. What I'm going to get you to do, Scott, is to perform some of your magic, and we'll see if we can't get this diagram and SWOT analysis knocked over quite quickly.
Well, Stephen, we've performed our magic, and we have our completed SWOT analysis in front of us with lots of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats around our parking system. So looks nice, and love the colors. So perhaps you could tell us a little bit about it, and
Sure.
Yeah.
Be delighted to, Scott. So yes, we have completed the SWOT analysis. We've got essentially 5 different elements under strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And of course, you could have many more than that. And you may find you're in a situation where you have many more strengths than weaknesses, or vice versa. In fact, any of these could be different sizes or shapes. Remember the importance of having notes in the elements. So, and also just reiterating the fact that these are elements now and they're available in the project browser. Let's also go and have a look at this element here, the current state and future potential. It's sort of the objective of the analysis, and we've got some notes in there that elaborate that in more detail. So to evaluate the current state and future potential of an urban parking system with the goal of maximising accessibility, etc. Now, we can have a look at these things. If we see one of these things in isolation, like say space optimization, we can find that in the browser, and we can also go to the traceability window and see that it's part of strengths. So even without looking at anything, we can see that nested relationship of space optimization is part of the strengths. The importance of the significance of making these things elements rather than just putting in text. And as I said before, we could have just actually under strengths just put all this as text rather than elements. But I'm going to show you why it is an important thing to do from a modeling perspective. The important thing that you're doing when you're modeling is creating a story, a narrative, joining up worlds, connecting dots. And there are many different disciplines that will work on this system, right from strategic modeling, from business analysis, project management, testing, development, analysis, schema development, systems engineering, controlling how the parking meters are being rolled out into deployment. So let's have a look at one of these things here. So one of our opportunities is mobile solutions. Let me just focus in on that. I'm going to use my pan and zoom window to get to this opportunities box here, and we can see mobile solutions. And we can look at the notes on that and say development of our user-friendly apps for finding, reserving, and paying for parking. So we can now link this element here into another diagram and another part of the model. So what we can do with that is we can right mouse click on it, and we can say here, new child diagram, show composite diagram, select the composite diagram. So that's what I'm going to do. And let's have a look in here for something to do with an app. So in our analysis model, we've got this diagram here, manage session via smartphone app. Now I could have searched for that, Scott, quite easily here. I happen to know where it is, but if I needed to search, I could search there and put that in and find the answer to that. So, if I was looking for manage session via smartphone, I could put that in and just put smart in there and see what it finds. And so, there's a diagram there, manage session via smartphone app and process smartphone payment. So a couple of different diagrams where that appears. Let's select this one and go OK. And now you see another little icon has popped up to the right-hand side of the element, the selected element. And by clicking on it, it brings up a preview of the manage session via smartphone app diagram. Now, we covered this in a previous video, and we had a mind map, which was part of our strategic models. And one of the participants, who was a surrogate for the motorist, said, I want to manage my current session via a smartphone app. We had a requirement then that that was traced to. I want to manage my current session via a smartphone app with some detail in there, and then the app itself and the smartphone as a node that you're deploying it to. So let's have a look and see now what happens when I click through this. I'm just going to make a copy of this element here, and I'm going to click through on that there. And you can see now that I'll get through to this one here. I can now look at that opportunity in here, and it can see mobile solutions there. And if we go back and look at our diagram, we can drag that one on and make it as a link And there it is there. It's come up conveniently telling us that it's from SWOT analysis. That's a very useful thing, using the layout guidelines there. I'm going to trace that requirement back to that strategic model. And the trace goes in the direction from the more resolved element. So the requirements is a lower level element than the SWOT analysis. The SWOT analysis was taking place in the strategic analysis, and I might want to just make that, change the color on that and make it a little bit more friendly. So there we have it. That's a very useful connection between these different parts of the model. There's a little arrow here on the tab, Scott, which allows me to go back to the previous diagram. So again, I can just click through, and now I can see that SWOT analysis, it's an opportunity, and it's a mobile solution. So that path gives me, it's like a breadcrumb that gives me exactly where that fits in. And I know now that, this was an important thing. The SWOT analysis was one of our opportunities, and we're actually, making use of that opportunity. So that's some broad brushstrokes. Obviously, people will create their own SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats. And remember that when we did this one from scratch, but actually we could have just used as always, the pre-built pattern that would have put this in for us, and it would have come in we'd be able to do it a lot quicker than what we did. But I wanted to show you from first principles, so you know how it's done.
That's excellent, and I imagine that for each of these elements, like for data collection, you could point to legislation and requirements that specify how you are allowed to collect data, and for enforcement infrastructure, you could have a network diagram showing some of the infrastructure and stuff like that. So there's a great deal of depth beneath every single one of the elements on screen.
That's right, Scott, and it's all about connectivity. It's all about that traceability, being able to go from a high strategic level right down to the nuts and bolts of how the parking meters are actually bolted to the ground, how the applications work, the code, the databases, all of that things, and alternatively back up from that level as well.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Stephen, for providing such a high-level overview of SWOT analysis. And I think when I used to do it way back in the NBA days on paper, it kind of ended at the paper. The really great thing about this example is that it takes you right down into requirements and implementation and wireframes and all the way back up to strategy. So it's fantastic. I'd like to remind our audience that if you like what you see, please like, comment, and subscribe to the Sparx Systems YouTube channel. We love hearing your feedback, and we love your questions, and we love the engagement with our customers. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Stephen. His contact details are in the notes below. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. It's great to have so many people viewing the videos. And once again, Stephen, thanks for all your hard work and for showing us how easy it is to undertake SWOT analysis in Enterprise Architect.
Always a pleasure, Scott. Thank you.